Hello, everybody. Welcome to Braintunes with Archana. Kids, parents, grandparents, adolescents, trainers, teachers, entrepreneurs. Did I cover everyone? I guess I did. Is there anyone in the whole wide world who detests stories? I guess not. So this Christmas season, I have a very special guest on Braintunes with Archana. Guess who? Who else in the Christmas season but for Santa Claus himself? So Santa has paid a visit to Braintunes with Archana. Today in my studios, I have a very special guest. He is a known face in the storytelling world and is a well-loved teller. I take great pride in presenting Mr. Tony Cranston, an author, storyteller, radio presenter at Talking Stories, which is UK's first and leading radio program for all lovers and tellers of tales, myths, and legends. So audience, fasten your seatbelts. Get ready to be regaled by stories from the master storyteller, Mr. Tony Cranston himself. Welcome, sir.
Yeah. Namaste, Archana, and namaste, everyone. Namaste, Braintunes.
Namaste, sir. Namaste. That's wonderfully said. How did you learn to say it with a perfect Indian accent? Namaste.
I am a yoga teacher. Many of my students are from India, and they speak very good English.
Yes, sir. And
I learned it from them.
That's beautiful, sir. And being a storyteller, you know your voice, intonation, you change, mold, and obviously it is not a surprise that you can put on an Indian accent as well.
I can do just about any fake accent you can think of.
That would be amazing. I would definitely like to try that on my show, sir. Right, sir.
Oh, easy. If I tell an Indian story, it'll say, oh, he's a man from India, don't you know? And if it's Chinese, it'll be, yes, that is so. That's very clever. And a great American voice, of course. We always have American voices and people from Norway. I am from Sweden and I am from Norway or Denmark.
Lovely, sir. Lovely.
Just fake accents.
Yes, sir. So, audience, Mr. Tony Cranston is not new to the media, not to the world. He is a well-known face in the storytelling world and also a well-loved storyteller at that. You've recently met him on Spotlight with Abha, where he shared several of his stories and had a lovely discussion with Miss Abha. So I take great pride in presenting Mr. Tony Cranston. He's an author, teacher, a storyteller, a radio presenter at Talking Stories. This is UK's first and leading radio programs for all lovers and tellers of tales, myths, and legends. So, Mr. Cranston, tell me, who is Mr. Tony Cranston in your own words?
Oh, my father would like to know that. He used to say to me, get a job, you know, and I would say, come the revolution, Dad, come the revolution. We will shoot. He'd say, oh, get a job. You know, his answer to everything was get a job. And he was right, of course, you know. So I don't know how I would describe myself now to him. I have been working for the last 43 years non-stop, but I've been writing books, I've been storytelling, I've been teaching yoga most of that time and Tai Chi. I don't know if my father would say that's a proper job yet. I don't know. But I haven't been unemployed for 43 years, so that's something anyway. And I'm close to my pension age next year, so hopefully I've got a pension next year. If not, storytelling will have to do.
I don't think there is anything which is amiss with storytelling, and world needs storytellers. So, can storytelling be applied to every walk of life?
Yes, it is applied to every walk of life, from school age onwards. If you are learning anything, by bullet points or anything like that. It only switches on two parts of the brain, Wernicke and Broca's area of the brain. But if you're told a story, it switches on every area of the brain. If a storyteller is talking about traveling fast or climbing a high mountain, those parts of the brain that concern themselves with speed and with climbing and heights and all that are switched on automatically. And if you were to ask a child what happened at school today, they will tell you as a story. That's what happens. If you ask anybody, oh, what happened yesterday? They tell you the story of what happened yesterday. Our brain is hardwired for storytelling. This is how we communicate. Next time you ask someone something, they will tell you it as a story. So you know the brain is hardwired for stories. In my old work, I was marketing and public relations, and we told stories all the time. The difference is marketing will say to you, tell the public, two products for the price of one. It's cheaper. This product is good because it has 100% of vitamin B12. But public relations, my area, would put a story in the newspaper, in the media, that B12 is good for you because vegetarians are hard to get B12. And if you don't have B12, then something serious could go wrong with you. Nerve damage, schizophrenia, paranoia, death, all within weeks. And they will tell the stories of this. And this is to scare you into getting yourself some vitamin B12 and sell it that way. So which is the one that's going to reach you? Is it going to be the story, or is it just going to be the two for the price of one?
Right.
The story is the one that will reach you.
So
and governments do this all the time.
How so?
I was going to say, yeah, governments do this all the time. They want to put stories into the newspaper and tell you how to behave and how to vote. And if you vote for this person, then this is going to happen. If you vote for that person, then that is going to happen. And they're just telling stories all the time. That's what they do. This is what they do. It's governments and people. They're always telling you stories, but they keep that away from us. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that they know that stories are going to reach into you much quicker than just giving you bullet point things.
Right, sir. I completely agree to that view, sir. So, sir, I've made a small PPT of Tony Cranston, sir, so that I can have a flow of, how I should go ahead with the interview. So, sir, this is a very, very interesting picture that I picked up from your Facebook profile. So tell me, what is this all about, sir?
Oh, this is my partner, Mei Mei. Both of us teach Tai Chi. Tai Chi is the Chinese exercise, martial arts exercise. It's those slow movements that you see them doing in parks all over China and everywhere in the world, I suppose. I'm sure you've got some Chinese people doing Tai Chi in India as well. They're everywhere. And my posture there is white crane spreads its wings, and May's posture is more of the Kung Fu style of Tai Chi. With a fan, Tai Chi fan. And we taught this around the UK. I was originally taught in Beijing in China by the Chen family, who created Tai Chi way back in 1604. Tai Chi means the grand ultimate, or Tai Chi Chuan, the grand ultimate fist. And it was a challenge by the originators to say, we are the very best. Now you try and prove that you are not, that you are better than us. And it hasn't been proved yet.
Right, sir. So, sir, my question was, here in India, we are very familiar with martial arts like, say, karate.
Oh, yes.
But is Tai Chi also a form of defense art or even attack art? Or is it some activity which actually improves the health of a person?
Yes. It's all of those wrapped into one.
Oh,
General Chen Wanting, who invented it, was a general of the emperor's army, and he'd won every single battle. He taught his soldiers the canon of boxing, which is every martial art that was ever invented pre-1604, and his soldiers never lost a war. And when he retired, he took his martial arts and added to that yin yang theory, traditional medicine, and all the theories that came out of India and yoga, and struck them all together and came up with Tai Chi. It's great for the mind. It's great for calming you down. It's good for keeping all the body nimble and supple, and you will survive to a very, very long age. That's why you see a lot of older people still doing it, because they can. And it is a martial art, and it's not self-defense martial art.
mhm.
It is more attack martial art.
Oh,
Every one of those movements is meant to finish off your opponent in one go.
right.
Not to say, oh, stop, don't hit me, don't go away, go away, don't bother me, or anything like that. Or if you hit me, I'm going to push you over there. It's got nothing to do with that. It's got more to do with, I'm going to put you on the ground and you're never going to get back up again.
Wow. Uh,
So
sir,
now when you see the old people doing this and they're doing these gentle, slow movements, you know there's a secret behind it.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. We do understand that. And so, how did you foray into Tai Chi?
I was in Beijing in 1995, and I was at the Foreign Affairs University now, Foreign Affairs College University in Beijing. I was
Mhm.
working there, living there, and storytelling there. And there was a teacher there who taught everyone there every morning. He was a master of all of this, a professor. Though he didn't like to be called master, he said he was a professor. It took him many, many years to be a professor of physical education, and anybody could be called a master. So he said, he is a professor, call me professor, don't call me master. And he was brilliant at all of this stuff. He was about 6'6" tall, very big for Chinese. And I learned from him every single day, every single day.
Indeed,
He's a
that's
great.
very interesting, sir. That's very interesting. And how has it affected your storytelling? Does it or has it made any
Uh,
impact in your storytelling? Because storytellers are known to pick up anything and everything and weave them into stories.
that is true. Storytellers are like sponges. We soak every single thing up. That is so true. I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that. I can copy anything and sort of think, oh, that's good. I can add that. Yes, with Tai Chi, I will start a story saying, once there was a man who dreamed all day and all night and just waved my hands around. It comes out natural, all of these movements
Mhm.
to do Tai Chi, even some of the movements I might do in telling a story. And yes, and I have stories from Tai Chi masters in Shanghai who told me a story of the day the Japanese invaded Shanghai in the 1930s and what happened on this day.
Mhm.
Brilliant story. And he was a Tai Chi master, though I played chess with him on the Bund in Shanghai in the rain.
Right, sir. That's lovely, sir. And so as we go further, your books. So please tell us about the books. As far as I have looked you up and I understand, you have already published 9 books, children's books, and
Yeah.
10th, 11th, 12th are under publication at various stages. So enlighten my audience about this, sir.
Well, telling stories, occasionally people say, can you write a book for us? So this one in the corner there, Tales from Claybury Woods. I was doing some story walks in Claybury Woods, which is in Essex, not far from where I live. And it's a real place. It's a very ancient woodland. I would go through the woods with a leader. He would tell everyone what the trees were and what your pencil was made of, and this bush you can make beer from, all kinds of things he would say. And I would tell stories about those trees. I had mentioned to him that I had written a book with some children years ago. That's the one you can see in the bottom corner, Lanchester, which is a place where I used to live. And the children wrote a storybook, well, not a storybook, a book, a year in the life of Lanchester, that village. And a 1 year to the day after I'd mentioned that, I got a phone call from him to say, would you like to write a book for us?
Wow.
So there it is. It's 16 stories, all about trees and flowers and plants and animals that live particularly in those woods and where they live. And then I added 100 plus activities to go with that. It's all about the environment. So there are things there with games and activities and photography and science and maths and history and geography and painting and all kinds of things, how to view things. There's some yoga there, there's some Tai Chi there, there's some Alexander technique and meditation in there, all kinds of storytelling and all kinds of writing techniques in that book, set for key stage 1, key stage 2 or parents. I'm very happy with that book. It's a good one. The newer books, there's another book coming out with children again, and I have a book coming, the secret of meditation or relaxation revealed. After teaching 43 years, and everyone tells me that the best part of my classes, my yoga classes, is the relaxation at the end. They say I'm good at it. And I made a CD for someone to see if anyone was interested. And the hospital took it and started copying it for all of their patients. Without telling me, but that was okay. And well, that was okay. I can't do much about it. I'm just pleased that they liked it. And so there are secrets to meditation and relaxation, and everybody glosses over them. But if you know 3 things, when the body slows down, your breath has to slow down. That's kind of normal. Everybody could realize that. But what people don't realize is that the brain follows the dictates of the breath all the time, 24 hours, 7 days a week, the whole of your life. Your brain will follow the dictates of your breath. So if your breath is erratic, so is your brain. If your breath is calm, so is your brain. And you look at all the meditation techniques and all the relaxation techniques and everything that you've ever heard that's supposed to be relaxing and good for you. You find that the body is slowing down, the breath is slowing down, and the brain is followed. The rest is decoration.
Wow, sir. So now I understand. So everything is interrelated, be it yoga or Tai Chi or meditation. You have control over your breath and you control your brain. Right, sir?
Yes, that's right. Yep. And it happens all the time.
So who or what was your inspiration to get into storytelling?
Oh, that was early 90s. I was a magazine editor and I was surrounded by people. It was an arts and music magazine called Off the Wall. And I was surrounded by people who were musicians and singers and Indian classical dancers and writers and all kinds of people. They were a something. And I was a nothing. I didn't do anything really. But being the editor-in-chief of that magazine, I could interview whoever I like. So I got to meet a lot of celebrities and rock stars or big names for the late 80s, early 90s, the biggest names. But one person I wanted to see was a fellow called Robin Williamson. And he was a very gifted musician, maybe 100 plus instruments. And he played at Woodstock, the Woodstock Pop Festival in America. He was a very famous folk musician. But now he was a storyteller and I got to meet him. And I was listening to his show and you could hear a pin drop throughout the whole show. He was marvelous. He told all of these Celtic Arthurian stories, playing a harp, and it was marvelous. I've never seen anything like it. But sitting in the front row after the audience had gone, he told me that when he tells a story, it is his story. But then after hearing it, if I go off to tell it, maybe get something backward forward, maybe add something extra or a different tone of voice or miss something out altogether, then it is my story. But it's only my story until I've told it to someone else and they tell it on. Then it's their story. We're just temporary custodians of those stories. And I thought, that's it. That's what I can do. I could be a storyteller. I could be a thing. I could be a storyteller. At last, I've got something to do. I'm not a musician. I'm not a singer. I'm a storyteller.
That's lovely, sir. So the perspective changes, like you said, from one person to another. And that is what makes or gives birth to a new story in itself. Lovely, sir.
It is.
So it is common knowledge that you have been a globe trotter. How has this influenced your storytelling, sir?
Part of my whole life, I wanted to go to China. And I will tell you the story. My mom tells this story that when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I had an argument with her. And I said, right, that's it. I'm packing my bags and I'm off to China. And I packed a brown paper bag, a carrier bag, and I put a blanket in to make it look full. I put a nice white shirt on the top to make it look really full. And I went out across the street to the end of the road and to the far side of the road, the farthest I had ever been on my own. And I sat there for, I don't know, maybe an hour before I asked a stranger who was walking by, say, can you go and tell my mummy I haven't got very far yet? So from about the age of 4 or 5, I wanted to go to China. And India next to it, really, because I couldn't tell the difference in those days. But storytelling was my excuse to go to places that I might never have gone before. And you can see in those photographs up there, top left-hand corner is Claybury Woods, where I wrote the book. And the right side, this is Fairlop, which is very near Claybury Woods too. At the bottom in the middle there, at the end, on the right-hand side, that's me in America under the Citizens Bank. This is the Water Fire Festival in Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island. Every year it's there. Bottom left-hand corner, this is me in Beijing telling stories in China. So naturally, I dressed as the emperor. And they loaned me the clothes to do that. I worked at the Children's Palace in Beijing. I go there every year. And if you don't know what the Children's Palace is, look it up. There's the dream education place. Imagine when you're training as a teacher and you have all of these marvelous ideas about inspiring children and teaching them and doing all this kind of things. And then when you get to the school, you find that there are shortages of pencils and pens and papers, and there's curriculums that you've got to follow and rules that you have to do every single time. And your education and teaching enthusiasm wanes a bit. But there's none of that at the Children's Palace, none of it at all. They will put 4-year-olds in the same class with 19-year-olds if their education level is the same. And no 19-year-old will say, oh, I've got a 4-year-old sitting next to me. And no 4-year-old will be, scared of the 19-year-old sitting next to him, because they know they're at the same level and they are both learning. They had 257 arts programs there, and I learned many stories from it. And I worked there almost every single year. I tried to get back to Beijing, to the Children's Palace. Even its creation is a story. And the Children's Palace is, if you look at the Forbidden City, the Palace Museum, People's Museum, where the picture of Chairman Mao is, you walk all the way through to the far end, you come out at the back entrance, cross the main road, and that's the other part of the Forbidden City, which was given to the children in 1949. There's a park there, all the imperial buildings, Coal Hill Mountain, all those kinds of things. And it was given to Madame Sun Yat-sen for the children to teach them. And they go there. It's a wonderful place to go. It's a wonderful place to go. And some of the children are fabulous. They are. Well, they all are. They're all clever.
Lovely, sir.
And
so,
it's my excuse for traveling storytelling. So, and next time I come into India, of course.
Yes, sir. And we are awaiting that day that you will step into India and, throw Or what do I say? Run your magic wand and take us into the make-believe world of story. That would be lovely, sir. So,
Yes,
right
I'd love to do it.
at the age of 4 years, you had set your goals on China, that you are going to China one day. Even you did not even know how to get there, but you had made it, and then that is what actually I guess we always I believe in this saying, sir, that if you really want something, the whole universe conspires to get it to you.
This is so true. This is true, so true. If you take one step toward it, the universe comes in a mile to come
Right.
to meet you. And
That's
it's true.
lovely,
You
sir.
got to start making those one tiny steps at a time, and it always comes to you. If you could dream it, then it must be ready for you. It must be there for you. Otherwise, you would not be able to dream it.
Lovely, sir. So it is, everything is here in the mind. You make up your mind and you set your goals and you can achieve it in
This
the
is so
same.
true. This
Right,
is so
sir.
true.
So without a doubt, stories and stories intrigue everybody. Stories take one into a make-believe world, and storytelling is something which one experiences the happiness, sorrows, fears, anxiety, joy, and all other emotions that the characters undergo.
This
How
is right. This is right.
does it affect the narrator, sir?
Sorry?
My perspective, when a person is reading a story, hearing a story, he or she undergoes all of this emotion. How does it affect the narrator?
Oh, well, if you're narrating the story, you're telling the story, whatever you're reading, those parts of the brain actually light up yourself. And it is exercising your own brain. But we have done many tests now, and we have linked people with probes on their head, the storyteller and the listener. And we do know that when a storyteller is telling or narrating the story, whatever area is switched on in the brain, that area is switched on in the audience as well, in the listener. It's true, it's marvelous, it's magical, but it works. And reading the story takes your imagination everywhere. Listening to the story takes your imagination even further, and you get involved with it, and your whole brain lights up. Not just a little bit of the area of the brain, but everything in the brain lights up. So I would like to say, you know, when you first learn something, it goes into the frontal lobe of the brain. If you learn something at school or from a friend or from a book, it starts in the frontal lobe of the brain. It stays there. It's like the reception area. But when you sleep, then it moves into the other departments of the brain. It gets departmentalized and assimilated and used and learned. Learned, that's the thing. So telling a story to a child at nighttime before they go to bed, a bedtime story, must be a marvelous way of educating. It's not just a marvelous way of educating, it's a gift to your child. It's a gift to your child.
Right, sir.
So
It
tell them
opens
the
the
story.
limitless possibilities of the brain, how a child can explore, understand, and come up with his or her own imagination in understanding of the concept. That explains how the world is adapting to neuroscience and understanding the functionality of a brain, adapting it to the classroom scenario, and helping both educators as well as students understand concepts better.
Yes, this is right. Einstein, Professor Einstein was asked in America by a lady, and she said, "Sir, my child wants to be intelligent like you." And he said, "Well, if you want your child to be intelligent, read him fairy tales." She looked at him puzzled and said, "What do you mean?" I said, "He wants to be really intelligent like you are, a professor of science like you." And he said, "Well, madam, if you want your child to be really intelligent, read them more fairy tales." And then he went on to explain that the areas of the brain that light up when you teach them a fairy tale or listen to a story are the same areas that light up when you're a scientist, when you're a genius, when you are a professor like Einstein. So teach them fairy tales if you want your child to be intelligent. This is all part of it.
Oh, that's
Education
news.
misses a lot of this. Yes.
That's news,
Unfortunately,
sir. And I
schools
think
miss it.
very
Yeah.
true, sir. Schools are more focused on the academics and understanding what
Yes.
is A plus B whole square, rather than helping the child understand how to actually apply this and enhance or develop life skills, rather, because storytelling is something which is going to impact all areas of the brain. And like you said, you want your child to be intelligent, believe in stories, let the children know stories. And I think that is how listening to stories from grandparents is more interesting to children rather than sitting with textbooks.
This is true. It's true. Yeah, I get children every Thursday coming to the local library from the primary school, and they trek 1 mile to come to the school. They sit down and they listen to stories with me, and they can tell. I'll say, what story did I tell you last time? Because I don't want to repeat a story, and I don't want to get halfway through and say, oh, you've told me that story before. I said, I'll be embarrassed. So, and it'll put me off. So what stories have I told you before? Then they put their hand up and say, oh, you told me the story about the black wooden horse, and there was an Indian wizard and a Greek wizard. And they go on and they tell me the whole story, virtually a 20-minute story. They've remembered it. They've remembered every detail, and they said, oh, I like the way that he flew. And so their dreams, their imagination, their arms and legs are going all over. Their faces light up. They're so excited about it. I said, can you tell that one again? And I can tell you a better one.
Yes, sir. So I can relate to this incident because I have a little niece and she loves stories. I'm a little storyteller in myself, not as big as you, but yes, I love telling stories, and the kids in my household love listening to me. So I remember telling her the story of the sky is falling. Okay, every child loves this story. So I just made up this story of I included all the animals and birds which come in the story, telling the sky is falling with the cock saying, "Cock-a-doodle-doo, the sky is falling." And the cat says, "Meow, the sky is falling." So I narrated the story. I included many animals, their sounds and everything. And the next vacation she came, she said, "Aunt, tell me the story of the sky is falling." So I started saying, and then she says, "No, no, it is the cat who comes first, and then comes the dog. It is not the goat which comes in between." I was like, oh my God, now I'm in soup because I did not remember the sequence in which I had told which animal enters when. Children do have this amazing memory, like you said, sir, and they can narrate the whole
Yes.
story. So
Well, their brains are like sponges, aren't they? They just soak up everything all the time. The earlier, the younger they are, they can learn more and more and more quickly. I always thought that put a child in a university and give them high mathematics and algebra and all that to learn, they would learn it. They would just soak it all up in next to no time. We just think that, oh, they're not ready for it yet because they haven't learned 1 + 1 makes 2 yet. But they would learn it. They would learn it straight away. We
so
have
it
child
is,
geniuses all around the world, so it's proof.
yes. Yeah, they're just waiting to be explored, waiting to be understood. Right, sir? Hey, that's a Santa cup, proving that I do have Santa Claus in my studio. Yes.
Yes. That's how I could do all the fake languages, Indian language and so on, because I go all around the world to tell my stories and deliver gifts every Christmas.
Amazing, sir. So this slide that I have right now. So storytelling is the missing gap between education and a good education. So tell us
Yes,
about
this
the
is what we...
talking stories, sir.
Yeah. When you tell a story, you tell... a child learns right from wrong. They learn good from bad. They learn how to be brave and not to be brave. They learn how to be, how to do, how to interact with people. They learn about other countries. They learn social skills. And then they learn a subject matter from a lot of different angles and from different perspectives, from this person's and that person's perspective. They get a fuller, complete picture. And the whole brain has switched on to listen to this, and it's assimilated in all kinds of areas. And years later, it will come out when it's needed, and you'll say, oh, I remember that, and you remember this bit of it, and you remember it from that angle and from this angle, not a narrow band of 1 + 1 makes 2, but your brain can also jump from 1 + 1 makes 2, 2 + 2 makes 4, 40 + 100 will be 140. Your brain will jump automatically, all just through a story. You can make these cognitive leaps across the brain and the different interconnections the brain has so well. And as we get older, I'm not sure about India, but I know in Britain, especially since the 1950s, we've been fostering off our elderly people into old people's homes, into old nursing homes, all kinds of things, because we've become a very narrow-minded, selfish, me society. What's in it for me? What you know, I want my life to live, etc. And so the parents of those generations kind of let themselves be pushed out, and they have little or no communication with people. Their brain's not switched on anymore. There's nothing active going on with them. They are isolated. And the result of all that is major depression and, worse still, dementia. You know, and it's never been known to have so much dementia in the world as we have these days. It's a big thing all around. And what a shame. What a shame when we have mass communications all around the world. We could communicate to India, to UK, to anywhere in the world, and we leave our old folks out of it, and we don't talk to them. And I just think if it just used their brain a bit more in communicating and talking to people and telling them what's going on today, what they did yesterday and what they're going to do tomorrow, dementia would be a thing of the past. You know?
Unfortunate but true, sir. I completely agree with this. And but India has always been a conservative society, and we were more focused on joint families, which actually helped people a lot. But the trend has been catching up, and India also is seeing a rise in nursing homes, old age homes, wherein elderly parents are just left to fend for themselves. Like you said, sir, love and belonging is what they require. A little interaction will go a long way, but the younger generations do not have time for their senior citizens. Very unfortunate, but this is a true scenario which you just mentioned.
A little story to illustrate that. There was a lady in the street where my mum used to live, and this lady would stand at her door, at our gate of our garden, and she'd just stand there, and she wouldn't speak to anybody, and nobody spoke to her, but she would stand there. And one day I went by and I said, oh, hello, Mrs. What was the name? Charlton, Mrs. Charlton. I said, oh, hello, Mrs. Charlton, how are you today? And she started speaking to me, and I saw her face light up. Now, I passed there about 1:30 in the afternoon on my way to my mom. Every 1:30 in the afternoon, she was there waiting for somebody to say hello to her, because that would make her day. Just somebody saying hello to her made her day. And I thought that was so sad, really. And I realized that this is what's happening to people. This is what's happening to people. Just one little, hello, how are you today, Mrs. Charlton? Oh, fine, thank you. Have you heard about this? And it made her day. She had something to think about, something to talk about. And she wanted to come out the next day to do the same thing again. So I always spoke to her.
That's so sweet, sir, and I completely agree. Not necessary that you buy expensive gifts or talk for hours together. Just a small hello, a smile would make the whole difference in a person's life, and it may make his or her day. I agree to that. The other day, I was just browsing somewhere and I came across this image, sir, wherein the note was, this man committed suicide from, he climbed onto a bridge and jumped into the waters below. They found a suicide note on him which said, I am climbing this bridge to commit suicide. If I find one single person who smiles at me on my way up there, I'm not going to jump. It was so very heartbreaking when I read that how unfortunate, what is it that we are losing if we just smile at a person?
Yes, that's right. A smile doesn't give you, it doesn't cost you anything, doesn't hurt you. You can walk to the shops now, you could go to the library now, and you will see people with the expressions on their face. You know that they're just lonely and they need to talk to someone. That's why they go to these places. And you will often see elderly people talking to someone on a market stall, and the market stall is cheering her up. And she comes back often to that market stall because someone is talking to her. Not necessarily that she needs the groceries, but that she needs someone
Just
to
for
talk to
that
her.
human interaction. Agreed, sir.
Yes.
So, although we are all connected, we are also very disconnected again. So it is a strange paradox, I must say.
Yeah.
The world has become a little global village with the internet connections and the virtual reality, but there is no human connect between people living in the same household. Very unfortunate.
Very unfortunate, yes. In our household, we all have computers, laptops, and mobile phones, and they have the television on. Nobody watches the television. We all look at our phone, and we very rarely speak to each other. But fortunately, that's better. We don't do that often, but it happens in most people's homes. It does.
It does, sir. It does. So this is a very, very interesting image. So what is talking stories and what has the earth got to do with it?
Oh, Talking Stories is a radio program that I do on East London Radio. It's available online, and you just look up Talking Stories East London Radio and you will find it. There are 46 programs coming up with the Christmas show with storytellers from all around the world. We've had 111 so far storytellers, a lot of them from India, some brilliant storytellers. In fact, the current program is all India, no one else. And we've had over 300 stories and some poets on there as well, and some special guest storytellers who were speaking about how they became storytellers too, and why, and what keeps them going. This photograph is myself doing a show in Taiwan, and this is Only One Earth, or Only One World. There is a club that all the astronauts are automatically enrolled. Every astronaut that goes into space is an automatic member of this of the One World Club, the One World Club. Because from their perspective, they see no borders, they see no countries, that you see one world.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So whether they're Russian, Chinese, English, American, or whatever nationality they are, they see only one world. And that's what this particular program is about. It's about creation stories and the fact that we're only one world.
Wow. So audience, I have stumbled upon the Christmas gifts that would be the most precious. Sir has just talked about the radio and the storytellers and the innumerable stories which have been narrated. Go treat yourself. What are you waiting for? Right. So tell me about how has the virtual world made a difference to storytelling compared to the physical realm where you've been telling stories throughout?
Wow, it's mostly just come about since we all got into a lockdown situation with this COVID virus that's going around. And it's new to me, it's new to everyone. Zoom came out just at the right time, really, for us all to do this. I like it. I can meet people in India, I can meet people in China, I can meet young and old. Like you can see on this photograph here, they're all ages there listening. And this is my home, and these pictures are all around me are all different stories. All of these things around me are different stories, so I can make stories from them. And I like Zoom. The only difference is that you have a small area to perform in, like a small booth, a small stage to perform in, and your movements have to be a bit smaller, or your expressions on your face have to be much more like, you know, and making all kinds of movements and expressions with your face. Whereas if I'm on a stage or if I'm in front of an audience, I don't need to do that. All of that comes naturally anyway. I will speak with my hands, I will make gestures with my face, and I will cry if I wanted to do in a story. I could do all of those things. In a Zoom context, it is smaller, but you get a big audience and a worldwide audience I could be seen anywhere in the world. And it's really interesting when all those people talk back to me and they say, oh, I like this story. Oh, I liked what you did there. And I am hoping, as we're all storytellers and we're all sponges soaking things up, there are two things to learn when you see another storyteller. One, you will see, oh, something they've done, or hear the story, and you know the story automatically from beginning to end because it was such a good story. You know it. You don't have to think about it. You will be able to repeat it straight away. Or you can see the storyteller with a certain gesture or movement. You think, oh, that was good. I never thought of that. And you will use that gesture, that movement sometime yourself. Or you will say, oh gosh, that storyteller is so boring. But then you think, well, I'm better than that. Okay, I can do this. I'm brave now. I could do this. If he could get paid or she could get paid for doing that, then, oh, I could be okay for this too. I'm a storyteller. Great. I'm happy. So you learn a lot by watching other people. You learn a lot by watching other people. And I would tell you all, I would urge you all to see more, to listen to more stories, to read more stories, to see more storytellers. And Zoom and radio programs like yourself and mine are perfect ways of learning new stories and learning new voice techniques and learning gestures and learning how to perform. But in the end, as Robin Williamson, the one who got me into storytelling, told me, every artist copies another artist. If you are a painter and you like Cézanne, then you start painting like Cézanne. But eventually your own style comes out. If you're a musician and you're a guitarist and you want to play like some famous guitarist, you start playing their songs. But then eventually your own style comes through and you are yourself and someone will copy you. So just go out there, borrow everything. That's what we all are. We're all beggars and thieves and storytellers, and we can borrow and use everything that everybody else has used. But then your own style will come out. And someone will borrow yours.
That's a very nice perspective indeed. Beggars and thieves and copycats and whatnot. We try to emulate others, especially our role models. So yes. I was there in the Kathastu series that you were a part of, sir, which was conducted by Ms. Sherin Matthews a couple of days ago. And I heard to your stories there. That was my first exposure to Mr. Tony Cranston. And ever since, I have been following you on all of the social medias to help me with understanding or trying to copy you, like you said, sir.
Oh, well, there's some videos of mine on YouTube. If you look me up, you will see some videos there, some dressed as Santa, and some ghostly tales, and some stories from my book, Claybury Woods. They are animated cartoons now. And there's more to come.
I did, sir. The whisper.
Yeah, oh, good.
Whisper of the trees, or the trees whisper, I guess.
Why the trees whisper.
Aha. Yes.
Oh, this is a technique that I learned. I don't have, maybe I have something to illustrate. When I'm writing, I will write on one side of the page of a notebook. I will always write in pencil so I can rub it out and change it and things. But I leave this side blank. I don't write anything on that side. I'll turn over, write here, never put anything on there. But because later I will have another idea. Another thing, oh, I should have said that, or I forgot that. So I will write that there and then draw a line where it's supposed to go into. and so on. And this is how you write your things. And this page is also for things that I've heard, an expression I've heard, something I've seen, something I like, and I've rewritten it to there. When I was working in Holland years ago, I was teaching Tai Chi in Den Haag, the capital, in the American bookstore. And on the wall, there was a piece of wood, and burnt onto the wood was just these words: trees know a few things. And I liked that. And I wrote it down in my little book. Years later, when someone, many years later, when someone asked me to write that Claybury Woods book about trees, and I thought, what do I know about trees? And so the first line of that story, Why the Trees Whisper, is trees know a few things. Then I thought, what do they know about? And I thought, they wave their hands to children on their way to school in the morning.
Oh, that's
and then
so
at nighttime, they whisper tree songs to help the children sleep. And
that's
then I wrote the
lovely,
rest of the
sir.
story.
And I guess when such stories are told to children, they also fall in love with trees and know that trees are very important. In
That's
fact,
what that whole book is for.
yes, it goes into different verticals, and a child starts thinking about environment, tree protection, and opposing deforestation. I guess that's a very, very nice way of. So now I can clearly relate as to how storytelling can impact various academic subjects as well.
Yes, the whole of that book is all about the environment. That's what it's for. It was sponsored by Redbridge Forest Rangers, and they put the book together. It's all about teaching about the environment and taking ownership of the forests. So they are now see the forest as theirs, part of their own thing and belonging to them. So they don't damage it, they don't destroy it, and they have an affinity for it. And because they have a closeness and affinity to the forest, they have a closer affinity to nature and things close deeper inside in your heart, etc.
I wouldn't like to deprive my audience of a story from a master storyteller himself. So can you tell us about the Fairlop Phantom, sir? That seems to be a very interesting story.
The Fairlop Phantom. Oh, I didn't know you wanted that story. I haven't told it for a long time. It's usually a live story that I like to tell. It's about 10 minutes long. Have we got that?
Sure, sir.
Oh, okay, good. Fairlop area is a place near me. It's not too far away. It's a big area. It's part of an ancient forest, but it's been redeveloped over the years. At one point, it was an ammunition factory making bullets and bombs and things for World War II. It was often bombed during the war. But all of that's now been cleared and it's been turned into a boating lake and forest walks. And there used to be a fair there many years ago. It was the biggest festival event fair ever in the UK. And it lasted from the 1600s to late 1700s, nearly 200 years. And everything that went on at that fair, you had the skeleton lady, you had the joined twins who would join together, you had the bearded lady, you had the gypsy fortune tellers, you had the acrobats, you had the singers and dancers and musicians, you had all kinds of things going on there. Everything that was good went there, everything that was bad went there for that festival. It was the first Friday of July every year. And big parade from central London to get there. Even the crown princes would go there, but so would all the gamblers and bad people would go there too. Eventually it was stopped. This is a story about what happened during those events. A young man was walking through the forest, following the trail, following the pathway towards the fair. He was noticing the trees, he noticed the flowers, he noticed the birds singing. They didn't quite notice that the birds had stopped singing. There was a quietness around him. The wind seemed to stop too. And he heard a voice behind him saying, "Young man, young man." And he turned around and he saw this old lady, and she had long white hair. She had blue, clear blue eyes. She had a bit of a wispy, bit of hair on her lip, and she was bent double over a walking stick. And you notice she only wore one shoe. And she was bent doubled over this walking stick. And she said, young man, oh, are you going to the fair? Oh, I would love to go to the fair myself, but I'm a bit too old. I don't think my legs can get me there. You look like a strong, handsome young man. Can you give this old woman a lift? Carry me on your back, maybe? He said, sure, mother. And he turned around and walked towards her. But she said, oh, no. Just stop there for a moment. Just stop there. My legs will still get me towards you. Just turn around. And so he turned around and bent over, ready for her to climb on his back. And as he turned around, he heard this fearsome scream, and her eyes turned blood red, her face turned blood red, her fingers turned to gnarled claws with long fingernails, and she dreamt she leapt 30 yards, 30 steps towards him and clawed off his back. The skin came straight off his back. She started to eat him up and gobble him up. You couldn't hear his screams for the noise of her chewing him. There was nothing ever found of that man except a few bones with some scratches on and one shoe. Now, word got out about this, but people said, I'm not scared. Nothing's going to bother me. I've never heard of anything down there. People were already talking now about the Fairlop Phantom. And they said, I'm brave. I can go, watch me. I'll see you later. And they would go down. But no one ever saw them again. Now, this went on year after year after year. Eventually, people started to talk about it and whispered about the Fairlop Phantom. And no one would go there, especially in July, especially around the time of that festival. So something had to be done. And at that time, the police force in Britain was brand new. And they brought in someone called Inspector Jonathan. Mm-hmm. And Jonathan was a very wise police detective, but he also knew about old things, old law and magic and things. So he did his detective thing, and he went around to people, and he said, what have you heard? What have you has anyone told you anything about it? Have you seen anything? And he asked in all the villages all around. And he's starting to build up a picture. And it seemed to be that there was an elderly woman seen. And it seemed to be that if you walked towards the elderly woman, she stopped. But if you stopped, she walked. And he thought, this is very interesting. Maybe that's a clue. So the next day, he put on a big coat, turned up his collar, hid something inside his coat, and put a bottle of water in his pocket. And off he went through the forest, following the pathway, pretending to be nonchalant and looking at the trees and looking at the birds. And he was. He listened. And he heard the birds stop singing. He heard that the wind held its breath, and he knew something was coming. Young man, can you help a poor old mother? But he ignored it. He didn't listen. He didn't stop. He kept on walking. Young man, please help me. I'm a poor old lady. Please help me. He still didn't stop moving. Jonathan, can you help me? That was it. He never told anyone his name. How did she know his name was Jonathan? He knew this might be her. So he turned around and he saw an old lady with white hair, clear blue eyes, stooped over a walking stick. But then he noticed that the walking stick was far too small for her. A walking stick should come to your wrist when your arm is naturally down. That's a good height. Hers was much, much lower. So he thought, why would anybody need a walking stick that's too small? This is not right. This is something funny. And then he said, yes, can I help you? And she said, I'm a poor old lady. Are you going to the fair? Can you help this poor old woman? Can you help her? carry me on your back? And he said, sure, I will help you. And he started to walk towards her. And she said, no, 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 just stop there. Just stop there for a moment. And so he stopped. And then she began to walk towards you and said, my legs will carry you just a little bit towards you. Just turn around and I will climb on your back. And he saw her moving. He knew this was it. So he turned around, stooped over, and she let out a fearsome scream, and her hair turned blood red, her eyes turned blood red, her fingers turned into claws, and she leapt 30 feet towards him. But as she leapt towards him, he pulled something out of his coat, and it was a sword. And he turned around and cut her head completely off. And the head rolled into the ground and turned into a red powder. And he knew it was pure evil. So he carefully brushed up all the powder and put it into his bottle of water, which was holy water. And he put the topper on the bottle of holy water, and he put it inside the rowan tree, which is the magic tree, the queen of the mountains. It's the tree that Harry Potter's wand is made from, and put it in the tree for safekeeping. And nothing was ever heard again about the Fairlop Phantom. Up until, well, the fair had gone, had stopped, nothing had happened anymore, right up until 1940, during World War II, during the Blitz of London. And the German Luftwaffe would come over thousands of airplanes and drop bombs on London. But because London was blacked out, all the lights were, curtains were drawn, there was no lights on anywhere. It was hard to see London. So often they missed places, but they knew of the ammunition factory that was built at Fairlop Waters. So they tried to bomb it, always missing. One night, the German Luftwaffe came over, dropping bombs everywhere across London. It was a bad night. There was thunder, there was lightning, there was storms, there was rain. It was a miserable night. So the next day, the newspapers had told how the Luftwaffe had missed London altogether, and how the British fighters had shot down hundreds of aeroplanes. There would be less of them coming back next time. But they also mentioned that the favorite tree in the woods, the rowan tree, was struck by lightning and was destroyed. Not long after that, a couple of days, two boys were playing in the woods. They were looking for birds' eggs, which is a bad thing to do, but it's what boys did in those days. They climbed the trees looking. One boy found something, some bones, and he ran with his friend to tell them what had happened to the police. The police came, investigated, because they were bones. When they investigated, strange things. They knew the bones were quite new. They hadn't been there for a long time, but there was no flesh on them, just bones. Strange though, what they found was scratch marks on the bones and only one shoe. So from that day to this, if you go to Fairlop Waters in July and walk through that forest, if you hear someone calling you, don't stop. If you hear someone call your name, run home fast. The end.
Oh, that was scary. Even to this day, does this happen, Mr. Cranston? Is it a dream?
Oh, it's all those things happened, and every now and again, someone writes to the newspaper, said they've seen something there. But let me tell you, children, let me tell you, listeners, I made up the whole thing. It's completely fabricated. Apart from the fact that of the World War II, there was someone who dropped there in World War II. She was a Belgian spy, and they did only find a few bones of her. She'd been there for months. But I put that bit in extra. And It's completely fabricated, but don't tell the newspapers. The newspapers think it's really true. And people are still writing to the newspaper saying, I think I've seen something there. The power of imagination. That's all it is. But I'm so happy. I'm not going to tell them it's not true. But you know, oh, well, damn, I shouldn't have said anything. Was completely fabricated, made up.
Oh my God, it does not look made up even 1% Mr. Cranston. I really had
Oh,
the
that's because I made it in a real place. I
yeah,
placed it in a real place, so it's a story of a place, and I put the times there, and I made it look there. I made it look as if it was true.
real. And the way you narrate it really sent a chill down my spine. I can imagine what little children what
Oh
little
yes,
about it.
oh
Agree.
yes, I can hear the children going home, going, "Young man, young man."
I know exactly. And anytime they are going down that path, they are going to be extra cautious to listen to that voice saying, yeah,
Oh,
man, yeah, man.
well, the story came about because I had to. Fairlop Waters has restarted that festival.
Oh,
It's now on
oh,
a Saturday, the first Saturday in July, and they've restarted it about 6 years ago. And I wrote 6 little stories or 6 little activity books for that event. And they're available online. If you Google my name and Google that Fairlop Phantom with my name, you'll probably find the whole book for free online. And you could just download it. You could just download it. There's 6 of them there altogether, and you can download them. Sir
amazing, sir.
Toto and the Princess, the Little Swan Maiden, Eric the Viking, Beagle the Water Bug, the
Mhm.
Fairlop Phantom, and there is one other which I can't think of its name really. Maymay's Cat. Maymay's Cat, that's there too. You can find all 6 books, and there's lots of activities to go with them too.
I will definitely include all of these in my description, sir, so that my audience is benefited from these books and they have a lovely time going over these books, reliving those experiences. And I
That's the
love
only scary one.
Okay, so loved having you on my show, sir, and listening to you live. Grateful to Ms. Sharon Matthew and Mrs. Shant Mysorkar for having made this possible.
Yes, thank you to
So
everybody.
we are also looking forward to meeting you in India and listening to you in flesh and blood.
Well, I'm hoping to come. Every time I try to come, something happens. I become ill or something, and I never really get the chance to go. So I'm waiting for the world to turn around a little bit, and then I can come. Well, I want to go to Bangalore. I want to go to Rishikesh. Trouble is, that's so far apart.
Yes.
There's lots of places I want to go and tell stories and collect stories and write stories and interview storytellers and people for the radio program and do a little bit of yoga in an ashram and teach Tai Chi and Alexander technique and do it all at once.
Oh, we are all waiting for all of these, sir. And thank you so much for coming on Braintunes with Archana and regaling my audience with your lovely uh, rendition of stories. It was mesmerizing. Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so happy I remembered that story.
And we
But I
love
always do.
we love listening to you, sir. And wishing you a Merry Christmas and waiting to have you again on Braintunes with Archana.
Oh, thank you. I'd love to come back. And Merry Christmas to you all. Thank you for
Thank you
having me.
so
Merry
much.
Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. By the way, did you know ho, ho is Cantonese for very good?
Oh, wow. That's a new thing.
So this proves that Santa Claus is Chinese.
Oh, okay.
It's
Okay.
proof. It's proof. That's when he goes to your home and he sees the pretty lights and the Christmas tree, glass of sherry, mince pie. He says, ho, ho. He slips into his mother tongue straight away. Now, when
Ah,
you've been searching for Santa Claus over the North Pole, no one has ever found his home in the North Pole. That's because he now lives in Hong Kong. And his elves moved to Hong
yes.
Kong years ago. But the proof, a bit of training with him. And he said he was ex-chief superintendent of police in West London. And you say, I've got a story to tell you, but I'm going to miss some of the detail because I'm not really supposed to tell you these kind of things, you know, secrets, etc., and police stuff we're not supposed to tell you. But I will tell you around the story, and but don't tell anybody I've told you the story, you know, etc. I can't tell you the full details. Obviously, I can't tell people's names or anything. So we start telling this great story, and he draw you into the story, really serious into the story. Then at the end, it's a joke. And then you go, he's so good, this fellow, you know. And I asked him, where did you learn to tell your stories? And he said, where else? In the witness box in court. He was a good storyteller. He was a good story. And I really don't know if he was chief of superintendent of the police or not. I don't know. I don't know whatever he said was true or not. I can't tell. He was such a good storyteller.
That's so very nice, sir. And indeed, I guess we need to hone our skills to be a good storyteller. And the more you tell stories, the better you get at it.
Yes, that's true. And the more you tell the same story, the more it just gets elaborated. I have stories that are, someone told me a story about a chicken and a hedgehog. It lasted about 30 seconds. Now it's about 25 minutes.
So it's your own story now. Like you said.
Yes, it's certainly my story now. Yeah, it's one the children want all the time. Can't we have the chicken and the hedgehog, chicken and the hedgehog, chicken and the hedgehog? And they will chant, chicken, 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 until I tell the story, you know. Oh, no, I can't tell that one again. Why not? Because I've told you before. Oh, we tell the chicken one, tell the chicken one, tell the chicken one, please. Okay, tell the chicken one. But then they help you tell the story.
So the next time Mr. Cranston is going to be on show, Braintunes with Archana is going to say, chicken, chicken, chicken.
Yes, I'm not sure if I could do that chicken story on Zoom because I need a lot of space to do it in. It's a very action story. It's a lot of action story. Maybe if I stand further back in the room, maybe I can tell it. But
yes,
you need a towel and all kinds of things. You need some props to do it with.
Okay, so maybe we can hear it live when you are here in India. Maybe you can.
Oh, definitely. It's a good story. It's a good story. You remember it forever. You remember it forever.
I know. Just hearing to the trailer is getting me all excited. So I can completely understand that if we watch it, the whole thing live, then it's going to be imprinted on our memory forever.
Yeah. And then you go off and tell it, and then they will tell it to somebody else, and that story will last for generations and generations and generations, hopefully. One thing about storytelling, myself and a friend in Ireland, we've been writing stories and putting each other's name into that story. So when he has a book published, he publishes a story about a Tony Cranston. And when I publish a story, it's about a Tony Ruddy Lock, his name. And hopefully when we're long gone and forgotten about, some stories about us might be remembered.
Etched forever in the memory of your listeners, undoubtedly, sir. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I was just going to say, all my stories that I write myself, I put people's names in that I know.
Amazing, sir. Amazing. That's such a nice way of, telling people that, hey, I still remember you. That's beautiful, sir. And yes. The line which says the soul places storytellers high among the sages and philosophers is so very true.
That's true. It's true. Stories come from somewhere deep inside you, and that's where philosophy and the sages come from too. That spark that's inside of you, that God piece that's inside of you, that, God give you or is God inside of you. That's what's connected to stories. That's why stories are so good. And that's why all the greatest teachers, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Lao Tzu, Confucius, all of these people taught us well, and they taught us with stories.
True, sir.
They didn't give us bullet points, did they? They didn't give a whiteboard and say, bullet point, and told you this and told you this and told you this. They told you a story because they knew that story would last forever. And when we talk about them, we tell the stories about them as well. And all this stuff, you know, when children grow up and they grow older and they start telling things, they will tell those things, they will do those things, probably as a story.
True, sir. So I loved having this sage and philosopher on my show today. Thank you so much for making this interview a very memorable one, sir.
Oh, I hope it was. Thank you for having me.
It was
been
indeed,
enjoyable
sir.
to be
It was
on.
indeed. Right. Thank you so much, sir. And wishing that you come to India so that we meet you live, listen to your stories. And in the meantime, my audience will definitely go through all of your social handles down in the description and get acquainted to all your stories, your books, your YouTube videos, and have a better understanding of what storytelling is all about and how it can impact people forever.
Yes, I hope so. Send me your stories too for the radio program. We like your stories and your poetry. We think of poets as being very clever storytellers. They could give you a mood, they can give you a feeling, they could tell you a story all in a few lines.
Yes.
Storytellers are not very good at that. Storytellers take a few lines and make it 20 minutes.
Yes.
Poets are clever. They've got another skill.
Indeed, indeed. So thank you so much again, sir, from Archana.
Thank you for having me.
Braintunes with Archana. Wishing you a
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye, sir.
Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.